Well, it's finally here. The highly anticipated limited edition Smart Wool and Grateful Dead collection has finally dropped exclusively at smartwool.com.
You may know Smart Wool as the go-to brand for all things merino wool, from socks to base layers. Smart Wool has been keeping people comfortable outside for decades with some of the softest and ethically sourced merino wool out there.
Well, Smart Wool's limited edition collection and collaboration with the Grateful Dead is back by popular demand right in time for the holidays.
From t-shirts and hoodies to beanies and socks, now you can have the next level comfort of Smart Wool with all your favorite iconic Grateful Dead designs. Shop the drop exclusively at smartwool.com and get it before it's gone for good. Gone for good. That's Smartwool, SMARTWOOL.com.
Loyalty described as, do you care? And I care, and that's why I'm on this show. Comes a time, here we go.
I'm a sucker for Oteil, man. I saw that same feeling that I have, that would he fill the void that I didn't even know existed.
It feels so good to, as Ben said, to try to do something about an issue as opposed to complaining.
If you can't help, don't hurt.
If we could just all get out there and throw cream puffs at each other, maybe things, instead of bullets and angry words, it would be better.
When you stop laughing, you stop living.
There's a worldwide surge in interest in mushrooms.
It was deep, man.
It's not that TM makes your mind quiet down there. It already is. We're just stuck up here. We've lost access.
Jumpin' Jack Flash came out by the Stones. So I thought, all right, perfect, man. I'm gonna drive. And I started driving through the neighborhood, and I got a text from Mick Jagger.
People saying that, what we do is non-essential. Well, playing those few gigs that you saw me at felt pretty essential to me.
It wasn't like they were clapping from here. It was they were clapping from here.
My view of things is that death is the last and best reward for a life well lived.
Like it's the strangest of places if you look at it right, you know?
If you're liking what you're hearing, head on over to patreon.com/comesatimepod and get your bus pass for an extra episode every week.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Comes a Time. That's Oteil.
That's Mike.
And today we had Amy Helm on the podcast. Wow, what a great chat.
Yeah, that was a very cool flowing chat.
She's awesome.
We need more ladies on the podcast.
Runs in the family.
Man.
Yeah, that foundation, just that yeah, she's awesome. She talks about an event coming up soon that I don't know if this will be released by then, but man, I hope more of these happen, where it's just like to be able to go back to, where Levon grew up and to play music right from the house and celebrate the origin of things, It's really, really incredible.
Yeah, the old cabin that didn't have running water, didn't have electricity, just like they were sharecroppers in Arkansas.
Yeah.
And to reconnect with that's pretty cool, man. Really cool. But we had such a good talk about so many different things.
Yeah.
I think you guys are really going to love this one. I sure did.
She's incredible. Yeah. She's just, and again, one of those guests that just has a contagious radiance, I think is what I'll call it. Right. We tend to get that here, where it's just like, we get right lucky. Down to we totally do. But, check her out. Check out the barn and support. I think Amy Helm Music was what she said
on Instagram, and I think amyhelm.com. We'll have a link.
We'll put it all in the notes. But thanks for listening, everybody. We're here on Osiris. You can go to osirispod.com for all Osiris podcasts and patreon.com/comesatimepod for bonus content every week. We appreciate all of our patrons. And if you want more from us, head on over. So thank you guys for joining, and we'll catch you next time. How you doing? Thank you for coming and joining us today. We record our intros at the end, so We can just dive right in whenever you're ready today.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on and being with us.
Thanks for having me. This is so cool.
Is it cold up there yet? It looks nice out at the back of that window.
It's actually pretty cold and rainy today. It's like a real fall day. It was beautiful yesterday, but it's good. We still need the rain, I guess, from coming off that summer. So where are you guys right now?
I'm right outside New York, Connecticut area.
Okay.
And so we're getting that dreary rain too.
Yeah. And
I'm in Florida. Boca Raton, South Florida. It's pretty much sunny all the time, unless the hurricane slams us.
Nice. How long have you lived in Boca?
God, oh geez, at least 5 years now.
Oh, nice.
Maybe a little bit more. I try to judge it by Nigel's age. Yeah, it's closer to 7 actually, because he was still young when we moved down here.
Yeah.
So it's getting close to 7.
Nice.
Yeah, I just saw our Roots Rock family. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them last night because we did a benefit for Barry Oakley Jr.
Oh my gosh! I heard that his house, everything got destroyed, huh?
Dude, that video was like, oh my God. I didn't see it for days, and they just did a walkthrough of the house, and it was crazy how much, like, all the ceilings were just ripped out.
Wow.
Shit. I mean, it had a roof, but like inside, all the ceilings were gone.
Man.
I was like, that's some crazy force. So, we did. Vaylor and Melody were here, and it was cool. Your ears were burning last night because we were. Henry came down.
Oh, he did. Great.
Yeah, and Andrew.
Wow. The whole crew was there, huh?
Yeah, so we were telling people like practically the whole band for the Allman Brothers set was all the Roots family. Pete Lavazzoli, me, Jaden Lehman, and Melody and Vaylor. Yeah, and then. So we talked about your choir that you do at Roots Rock. We were like, come on, y'all, come up to Roots Rock.
Yeah. I'm picking songs out if I'm back with you guys. I've got new tunes to start to challenge them with. I love doing that so much. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have done that with you guys. I love it.
Oh, you really blessed us with that because it was, you hear little things breaking out here and there, but when you're walking around, all of a sudden you hear this full choir. You're like, oh my goodness,
Yeah, it's a cool thing that the Roots that week is so it's so open and has so expansive, I guess is the word I'm looking for, in terms of just all of how the music is in every corner, like scattershot out into the whole campus. And there is something really, this last year when we did the singing in the main room, it was cool. I could feel how it, it's just such a focus, isn't it? Group singing like that. It's such a galvanizing kind of force, that's
high praise coming from you because you live in this area. I feel like that whole area of Woodstock and everything up there is just like constant art and music.
It's magic up there
all the time,
It's so many great musicians and singers live up here. Isn't it funny? It's really an incredible thing. And, I hope everybody sticks around. Woodstock has changed so much since COVID. I'm sure you guys have seen it in your areas too. Like it's just such a different scene up here now because so many new people have moved up here, which has, it comes with, there's good and bad that comes with that. I mean, none of it intentional, but just kind of how the shape of a culture can shift in a town. So things are expensive, there's a lot of that going on. So we got to keep our musicians here in Woodstock able to afford a rent, but it's a really special place for sure.
Yeah, it sure is. There's certain parts of the Northeast and Northern New York and New England where you drive through, and it just kind of has this magic vibe to it, like you're in a children's book or a fairy tale or some type of like Narnia, you know, like just even when you get up like Watkins Glen area, just that it's like big sky country in the Northeast.
Right.
It's so pretty and
I feel
inspiring.
like it's got a little, it's like a little, not the same as New Orleans, but just this concentration, you know,
inspiring.
I mean, you kind of expect it with a big city,
yeah,
you know, but
you know,
up there, it's like,
I know it. You know, Woodstock has an interesting history. I don't know if you knew that Woodstock, like before the 60s and the festival and Dylan and the band and all the people that were kind of concentrated here at that time, this was always an artist colony. Did you know about? Oh, you've known about, because you've been to Birdcliff and Maverick and.
I didn't. I mean, I don't know all the details of it, but I knew that it way preceded like Woodstock, you know, concert.
Yeah, the next time you're here, if you have time, like before or after Roots, I should show you the Birdcliff colony, which is like an area, kind of neighborhood up through a part of the mountain that has all the original buildings where all these painters and sculptors would come, like at the early 1900s, late 1800s. And they chose that specifically, like Mike, you were talking about the big sky country. They chose that area specifically for the light, because the light is so unusual. And these kind of mountains here, I guess, because they're low mountains, you get like open expanses of sky and then these kind of forested areas. And it's a cool place and cool buildings there. Actually, great place to play music too. The Little Birdcliff Theater. They're not set up all the time, but that's a magic little spot to go do a show.
It's like the Shire up there.
Yeah. Right.
Well, it is funny too, because like when you're out west and you have big sky country, it's a lot of just like flat land or mountains in the distance and stuff. But like you just said, like there's a certain point where you cross over either like the Taconic or 84 if you're coming from like the east, and when you get up above it to a certain peak, the sky is huge, but there's those big green rolling hills, and now with the foliage, and it really is kind of a like, oh, we're not in Manhattan anymore, that's for sure. You know?
Thank God for that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No right angles, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Is that a great environment for you to like write music in?
It has been, yeah. It has been. I love it here. I mean, and, you know, I have got my boys are here, and we're kind of very settled. There's a great community. I've got all my mom friends and the schools and the, you know, so it's a good place to feel. It's a good place to have learned how to be a touring mom, how to be like working and traveling from work and coming home to the kids and like trying to work out how to do that, because it's hectic to do that, as you know. And, you know, this has been a strong community. It's very supportive. And so for that too, I think it's been a place where I can kind of take a breath and try to do something creative and not get overwhelmed with the schedule of just momhood, you know, which is.
Let's talk about that a little, because, you know, it's so much. You know, I think it's kind of easier for the guys, because the guys go off and their wives are at home or girlfriends or whoever, you know, and they're kind of taking care of, and the guys are just off like doing it. But you're still on the hook. How do you actually manage that? Because I feel so guilty when I leave everything on my wife, and she's got to do it all. We're very doing everything together.
Yeah, right.
So I can't imagine you being like, well, I got to go on tour for a month. It's like, what?
I know. It has. I was just telling a good friend of mine that I met, you know, you go through these seasons as a parent. Like now my boys are 11 and 14. So I kind of like, they're getting a little older, and I look back at like the last 5, 6, 7 years. And I'm kind of the same, like, how did I do that? It was a lot. And I think managing the guilt was a big part of what I had to come through. I had a really interesting conversation with some of the other ladies that I'm friends with up here who are, you know, our kids are the same age and they're working full time. And I came to realize in conversation, they feel just as guilty, you know, they're working jobs and getting home at 7:30 at night. So they've missed school pickup. They missed going to the soccer game, like all those little things that kind of make a day. So that made me feel a little better and started to ease my guilt. I was like, all right, everybody's got, if you're working, you're working. And, my ex-husband, Jay, who you've met, Oteil, I think you know Jay. He plays with the Ramble Horns. He's a saxophone player, and he played with Greg for years, with Greg Allman. So he and his wife, May, have been great. And so we have a really good co-parenting scene. Of course, they're super helpful, but, and my boys are just they're so sweet and forgiving, and they they adapt,
Yeah.
So you had a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old essentially during COVID. Like that was pretty much, that must have been, how was that? I mean, it seems like, who did we talk to? Marco Oteil?
Yeah.
About like just experiencing the pandemic up in Woodstock and how it was kind of, everyone had a different, experience, but being up there, being with the two boys, like I always think about children and what they missed socially during the whole thing.
Yeah. My younger boy, he really, it hit him hard, my older son seemed to adapt a little differently. What was the darkest part of the pandemic for me with the kids? And I've talked to other parents who didn't miss a beat to jump in and say they had the same experience. It was the gaming. It was the video games and the tablets.
It's hard to come back from that because it's a new baseline, right?
Yeah. And it became a comfort for them that was taking the place of it was like an addiction. And I was just like, my friend and I heard her screaming at her kid, and I'm screaming, we were on the phone. I was like, get out the tablet. And then I said to her, I said, it's almost like, I said, I feel like you and I have given our kids like $1,000 in cash and a bag of Coke, and we sent them into Atlantic City to a casino. And then, right? With all this shit they were doing. And then it's like they act out because they were at a casino with their like money and their shit. And then
all coked up.
And then I'm like in a rage about it. And I was like, I had a couple moments in pandemic where I was like, this is the most dysfunctional. Like I spent decades climbing out of this shit, going to Al-Anon and trying to work it out. And here I am.
Bells ringing, like wheels turning, lights flashing.
It's war, man. I watched this one lady, and she said, because I was just trying to go over, the pediatric, whatever, people, the legit people, they changed the whole guidelines. They were like, that's not going to work anymore. So you have to let your kids play more video games, and just nothing you could do about it. And I watched this one lady, and she said, you got to realize that for someone that has just been gaming, to get up off the couch and walk 1 square block is actually painful just to get them up and out of the house.
Really?
So I was like, okay, so this is going to be a little mini war, where there's going to be tears, maybe. Sometimes goes better than others.
Yeah.
But I'm prepared for fighting, for tears, for whatever. And because Nigel, he won't want to ride his bike.
Sure.
But then he'll get out on the bike and he's like, this is great.
Right.
But you got to have that thing. The unplugging is brutal.
Yeah.
I just I'm here for it. Like we can have war. We're going outside.
Yeah.
And we'll figure it out later,
Yeah.
Hard.
It's serious. It's like they're going to have a whole chapter in the book, in the academic world of psychology or psychiatry. They're going to have a whole chapter about this. Because the other thing, I mean, I know we haven't talked about music quite yet, but just an interesting fact, and I'm sure that you all have seen this in your communities too, the rate of teenage depression and suicide skyrocketed.
Yep.
And some of the kids that I know that have been struggling, a big factor in this is that their main connection, their main melody was that fucking tablet. and the conversations on social media and connections with strangers and thinking that something is the kind of seduction and filling up of what you think is reaching you. You know, it's really a trip.
It's terrifying.
And music can really get them off of that. Because I wasn't forcing my kids to play music because I didn't want to be the stage parent. I grew up seeing that, and my parents were not. But a lot of the kids in acting, dance, music, you could see them. It's like the sports parents. It's like, dude, this kid is never gonna want to dance, act, sing, play music the way you're being about it, you know? So I was totally hands off. But then when Medeski, he taught this one class at Roots Rock, and he gets up there and he goes, I just can't imagine parents, like, I'm paraphrasing, like not forcing their kids to play music. He wanted this whole thing about, them having a relationship with music and all this stuff. But the bottom line was, he was like, if they came to you and said, I'm not doing math, I'm just not into it, he'd be like, you're doing math.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's that essential. And if you could get kids to play music together, I mean, that would do it, you know?
Right. That's really interesting. That's a brilliant and true thing. It's like it is so, it is a balm to their, it is a healing thing, even if they're never going to play it, never get on stage.
Just for fun. It's because they call it playing. That's what I'm going to tell my kid. If your job, if it says you're playing, that's probably a good job.
Playing video games.
I don't know, but, oh God, that's right.
Watch what you wish for, Oteil.
If he can get paid and move out and handle that rent and utilities, I got nothing to say. Like,
no, it's crazy too. And then you see kids will log in and watch other kids play video games. And it's like, growing up, it was like, if I wasn't playing, I didn't even want to be in the room. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the fun part was to have the controller and, like I can't stand, like you go, give me it. It's my turn. But I thought about it too, like with this, because growing up before Game Boys and before, we maybe had like a dollar store, like handheld little soccer game that ran out of batteries in a day and then you threw it out. I always walked around with a headset, like a Walkman or a tape recorder, whatever, and like a bag of tapes. And it was just like, had to have music playing if I wasn't communicating.
Me too. I have my Sony, my Sony Walkman, the yellow waterproof.
Yeah, with the bass
you
boost.
You had a waterproof one?
Yeah, those were the
the yellow one, like it, or maybe it seems like it could be waterproof.
It was sort of waterproof. It was supposed to be, if you dropped it, it wouldn't break. It had the thing that snapped and locked it.
Yes. I love that thing. I would listen to my Walkman on the bus ride all the way uptown from 21st Street up to 91st Street. That was my time.
That was my video games, I think, was just like listening to music.
I know.
Staring out the window and just imagining like playing on a stage or, I always had this cool like idea as a little kid. If I could see people coming and hear what they were listening to, like if I could see a bubble over their head that said like now listening to Bob Dylan or Grateful Dead, you'd be able to make friends that way. Like you could go up and go kind of like, oh, I like that music too.
Right.
It was just a little weird fantasy world of mine, but that was
I've never thought about it like that. That would be perfect, actually. You'd instantly find your tribe. You'd get away with you'd drop 80% of the conversation.
Yes, exactly. It's a time saver for sure.
I will say that has been a positive side for Nigel, is that he's been able to because he's really into Pokemon.
Oh,
it
yeah.
just happened.
Yeah. Isn't that you know what? How old is he now? Nigel is...
He's 7.
It happens. So Lee is 14. Huey, my younger guy, is 11. At exactly 7 and 8 years old, each one of them got into Pokemon. It's like a rites of passage. It's not even doesn't matter if you were born in 2000.
Clearly, right?
I think it just happens. That's so cool.
Yeah.
But it's a way for him to make friends. He's very shy, But then when he finds out another kid, and then they're just off to the races.
Yeah, it's that comfort. Like, oh, I could be me around you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But he does. It's weird how excited he gets seeing his friends on the device. I'm like, let's go over their house. And, so we do that. Fortunately, in Florida, it's like we can have Vincent over. Okay, get in the pool and, let's actually play outside. Nigel goes, I'm not really an outdoor kid. I was like, oh, no.
I don't really like math.
Yeah.
Outdoor and kid are like one word.
Get outside.
Come on,
totally.
unless you're like in Alaska or something. Come on, dude, we're doing this. But he said one time, I said, I was really frustrated. I was like, we didn't have a pool. We didn't have video games. We didn't have, I just went to, he was like, what did you do? God, I'm so sorry, Dad. That sounds terrible. I was like, we played music. That was my video game,
Yeah.
So I got his little drum kit here. Is
he starting? Yeah.
I forced him. I came back home after Roots and I said, actually, I am forcing you. Sorry.
Actually, I've been hanging out with Medeski and I have a whole new game plan.
I just erased the whole chalkboard. I said, you can pick it. You want piano, you want bass, drums, guitar. Like you pick. He said drums. So he's doing it. But
nice.
Your son, I didn't recognize him. Did his hair grow like massively longer?
My older son, his hair's gotten long and he like stretched up. He got like tall and skinny overnight.
Because he came up to me and he was like, hey, man, what's up? And then I saw him play. He plays drums, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw him playing drums with Barry Oakley Jr.'s kid on drums.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, my God, this is Roots. Levon's grandson and Barry Oakley's grandson are playing drums together right now at Roots.
Yeah.
I was like...
Yeah.
It's good too, man. I didn't reckon. I felt so bad. He walked up. He was like, hey, man. And I was nice. I was like, hey, what's up, bro? And then later I saw him on drums. I was like, oh, my God, that's Amy's son.
Yeah, I know. They just think he loves it. He loves music. And gosh, I love that about Roots too. It's such a great environment for them to all play music in and kind of, hold, like watching like him and Barry Oakley's grandson hold the end melody and Vaylor, everybody, and Luther and Graham, who's there. There's a lot of people that are kind of holding a legacy piece of it. And, but it's such a strong community of like, you play because you love it and because it's good for you and it's good for the people you're making music with. And so what level any of us are on just completely is erased. There's no pretension. There's no competition. There's no vibe. It's such an unusual community that you all have built there, Oteil. It's so special. So I know he loves going every year. It's like his favorite thing.
I'm so glad to hear that and you see the friendships of the young people that are now becoming young adults.
I know.
I mean, all these kids are taller than me now. They were like 10.
I know.
When we started, I was like,
that's the future of music too. I mean, that's the important thing as well.
It's a living legacy. And like you say, but my favorite quote is Ornette Coleman. He said, my goal is to eliminate the caste system in music. And I think that's so cool about folk music where everybody learns like sitting in the living room, on the porch, in the wherever, or in church. There's the worst singer is singing along with the best singer, like on earth. And you got the worst singer on earth, and they're both doing it. There's a power in that,
and meaning it, and not even clocking who's on what level. It's just different energy that's being. I know. I know it. Yeah.
I guess with it in the thought of like with children and one thing I'm fascinated by and I wanted to ask you about was like growing up, were you fascinated by the life? Were you immediately, this is the path I'm going to take? Was it something that kind of chose you? Like, I always wonder about that with like growing up in in the music life, you know?
You know, it's funny. I had a little bit, I had a more of a, maybe a sidestepping kind of path into committing to music, which was, you know, I always, my light's flickering a little bit. Sorry. Music is just what I could do from a very young age. I could sing and I could play piano, and I was good at it. It came easily to me, and it kind of at school, you know, and choir and all those, you know, by the time you're in second and third grade, I knew that was something I could do. And yet I just never, I was always interested in getting better, but I didn't have a real clear picture of myself as a professional singer from a young age. Like, it's a funny thing. Like, I was always in bands, and I always wanted to expand my ears and what I could do technically speaking. And so it was this kind of drive coming from that place, as opposed to a real clear vision of a music career, I think. And, you know, I tried other things. I was a teacher for a little bit, I was teaching English to kids that were getting their GEDs, and I waitressed a lot, and I worked in a flower shop. And then it was actually my dad who, when I was in my mid-20s, you know, basically like threw me in the car and was like, this is what you're doing. Like, stop working, stop working at the other place. Stop wasting your time. You know, stop doing this. I'm going to make you do this. It was kind of I think that he recognized my lack of commitment coming from whatever insecurities or fears, or just a kind of vague sense of directionless thing that I think I held, which maybe a lot of young people hold. So my dad threw me in this blues band that he was in, and coming through that with him, that's when I realized that, you know, I got better, I got stronger, I learned how to kind of sing through my insecurities, and I committed to the path for better or for worse.
Wow.
So he just John Medeski'd you, basically.
He John Medeski'd me.
I love that that's a verb now, Medeski.
I got Medeski. Yeah, and he, you know, it was like baptism by fire. It was not like I was green. I was not confident. I did not know how to choose. There's a lot of things to becoming a singer. I didn't know how to really choose the right tunes for my voice just yet. I was getting up on stage under the very bright light of Levon's daughter. There was no escape.
No pressure.
No
pressure.
Right. The legacy thing was here, and I didn't quite have it there yet. You know what I'm saying? So I got up on stage and was timid and quiet and shy and sometimes out of tune, and all these kind of things that happen when you're getting your sea legs. And I remember one night, God, man, we got up at the Gibson Guitar Factory, not warehouse, showroom or whatever, doing a gig there in Memphis. And so, you know, when my dad played Memphis, you can imagine like the musicians that came out, just his peers that came out to watch him.
Yeah.
So, man, there was every like incredible motherfucker you've ever heard of, like sitting in the thing. And I got up. I've actually told this story at Roots to a lot of the kids there, Oteil. And I got up, and this has never happened to me before or since. But I got up, and we were doing "You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog," right? That version of it, the Coco Taylor version. And I was singing a harmony. We had done it every night, me and this other singer in the band. And something went like this, and I couldn't find it. And I sang the whole thing a quarter tone out of the key. The whole song.
You got stuck.
I got stuck. I couldn't come out. And I was like, it was like falling in slow motion. Like all the horn players from Stax, like all of these fucking guys. And I was like, I could feel myself just. And I went back to this hotel. I went back to this motel we were staying in Memphis, out on the highway. And I had this like moment, and I had been reading a lot of Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, essays on self-reliance.
Yeah.
And I had this thing where I was like facing myself, like, and it was like, are you going to do this or not? Because if you're ever going to walk away from it tonight, like walk away for good. And,
see, Dad.
yeah, guys,
back to the florist with you.
It's back to the florist for me. And I just decided that it meant that much to me and that I was going to stick to it for better or for worse, and I was going to work it out. And it didn't mean I had to be, at the top of my game tomorrow night, but it meant that, back to what you're saying about the choir and the intention, and back to Mike, your question about like, how did you get how did you decide to do it? It was kind of this really intense, profound moment in my life where I just was like, I'm going to stick with myself because it's all I got. And
I think a moment's a gift. You know, if Colonel Bruce was alive, I hear him in my head because I got stuck. Someone asked me, have you ever harmonized, like sang a third up from what you're playing or something?
Yeah.
And I only did that once by accident. I got stuck and I couldn't like get it back to the unison note.
Yeah.
And it was actually good. I should have went, cool, let's do this,
Yeah, but at least you were in the right key. I was in a different key, but that's all right.
But it's like the getting stuck part.
Getting stuck, yeah.
That's something that you don't ever see that happening. Like you can't picture that would be on the list of things that could go wrong. Like I could get stuck a quarter tone sharp or whatever and not be able to like come back.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing afterwards because it just it's almost like a huge gift. Like the universe just dealt you a gift of like, all right, sorry to do this to you, but for, like 40 seconds here, we got to just pull your legs out from under you just because there's only one way.
Well, it's like, you're like being shown the edge of the cliff. Yeah.
But being pushed over it.
Yeah.
Right.
Being pushed off. That was Colonel Bruce like, sorry, here we go.
And it had to happen in Memphis.
It had to happen.
It had to happen in front
with
of
all the guys.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That really is amazing.
That's a big cliff.
That is.
It's a big cliff. You know what? I told that story last year at Roots to a group of about 7 or 8 kids around Lee's age and a little older. And I told it the year before to another group of teenagers there because it's, everybody talks about feeling I'm embarrassed and I really fucked up my solo and I saw Teal come in or I saw Luther come in or I saw Modesta come in. I'm like, well,
I didn't even think about
you know
that.
You know what, guys? I sang a quarter tone for a whole tune. It's kind of my brag.
That should be like, that's like one of those T-shirts. Like I came to Memphis and all I did was sing a quarter attitude. Like all I got was this damn T-shirt
in front of half the legendary musicians in the country
of every record you've ever loved.
Well, what's kind of amazing about that, and I'm a massive fan. First of all, drummers that can sing. I don't know. You're from another planet. Like, I don't know how the hell you do it. Like, I could play guitar, but I can't have both feet, both hands doing separate things and singing.
Yeah.
I don't know how the hell. But that work ethic thing that I heard something about Levon that like when he left the Hawks and he just decided he was kind of done. He didn't like the direction it was going. So he went and worked on an oil ship, right?
No, he left the Bob Dylan tour and did that.
Oh, it was the Dylan tour. That's right.
Dylan.
That's right. I'm sorry. I thought it was the Hawks.
You gotta love it.
That's right.
Yeah, when Dylan first went electric and
everyone was getting booed. Yes.
He said he told me himself. I mean, he said to come out there and the sound of an arena of boos.
That's right.
He said I couldn't fucking take it. I wasn't going to take it anymore. There's no point to doing it, It's just so he left and went and worked on an oil rig. in New Orleans.
That had to be a bad feeling to do that. I mean, it's like, man, and then they went and got him back, right? Robbie and everybody went and said, "We need you."
Yeah, I think he came back and they got into it, got back into it, obviously. But
he had that cliff moment too. Yeah.
Yep, that was his cliff.
That was a cliff. He was so unusual, my dad, because he was really like, he has such a different background than most people, because he was just this dirt poor, like sharecropper, So I think that his not only suspicion and distrust of the music industry, but also the way that he was repulsed by kind of the politics that are inevitable and something like that. He had a strong will to not play the game. I mean, for better or for worse. I mean, I think that sabotaged some things for him, but now looking back and I see who he was and his career and his life, and like, he just would not play the game. He just wouldn't fucking do it. And, for the most part, he really stayed true to himself, and he built, I think that's what allowed him to have the last chapter of his life that he did, coming back from throat cancer and building the Rambles and making those records and having this kind of beautiful success, not only industry recognized success, but really the success of, making something for being compelled to make a piece of art and making it and building a band and building it with his daughter and with his, having a community.
Yeah. And when you're such an undeniable force though, like he was, like you said, him going to Memphis and just like all of the peers just coming out to, he's just.
You got to pay the tab for that though. When you won't play the game, you have to pay the tab.
Yes, you do.
What's up, everybody? This is Mike, and today's show is sponsored by Sunset Lake CBD, a Vermont hemp farm crafting affordable CBD products designed to help with stress and sleep without breaking the bank.
Sunset Lake CBD is a majority employee-owned hemp farm located just outside of one of our favorite places, Burlington, Vermont. For years, Sunset Lake was a dairy farm producing milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. We had them on the podcast. In 2019, they diversified and started growing hemp for CBD.
And Sunset Lake CBD crafts products with hemp grown on their family farm and ships them directly to the customer, cutting out all the cost associated with getting on the shelves at stores. They have CBD products for every occasion and offer tinctures, salves, edibles, coffee, smokables, and even for that anxious dog of yours, they have pet products.
Ooh, I need to get some for my dog that's barking all the time. But I'll tell you this, I use these. The Sour Bears.
So good.
They are CBD gummies. I literally, no joke, I take these every night. They help me sleep. And it's almost bedtime.
Yep. And I still, as said it before, I'll say it again. You go to a long show, you come home, my 42-year-old ankles are not what they used to be. And I rub that salve all over them and put them up, enjoy a nice cocktail, and just let it ooze right into those sore bones. And you know what, folks? All you Comes a Time fans, if you check them out at sunsetlakecbd.com and use promo code TIME, T-I-M-E, you'll get 20% off all products. That's sunsetlakecbd.com. Use promo code TIME, 20% off all products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer owned, Vermont grown. Thank you.
Get you some. It's okay. I see a lot of people want, the older I get and the more interviews. I almost like interviews with people that make art more than their art at this point. I'm more interested in it because I'm interested in the process, and a lot of what I see for people that have gotten older They're like, you have to define what your idea of success is. Everybody, like the obvious idea of success is tons of money and tons of fame.
Yeah.
And plenty of people that get that go, oh God, if they survive it even.
Yeah.
Right? If it doesn't kill them.
Yeah.
And then, but others that don't get that, like, but they do because long term people know, like, this was one of the guys, this was one of the ladies that really made a difference. And that thing is going to last for decades and decades and decades. Yeah. And forever as it transfers into other people and goes on that way.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, okay, it's better for me to be in a good frame of mind than to have more money or more fame. Yeah. Because if I'm in a good frame of mind, I'm going to live longer. It's going to be better for my kids, my wife, everybody, my friend, like, you know.
Right.
So sometimes I understand the politics thing. It's brutal. Music is great. Business is war. It's war. And Levon was like, you know, I believe in peace. I'm not about war. I'm not here for the war. And I'm like half and half. I have an easy cutoff point where I'm like, you know, I'm done. Like,
right.
Well, how many artists get into art because they don't want to play the game, and then once the game starts to pay off and the business parts start coming in, now you own a small business. You are your small business, and you have to keep the stuff in the window fresh, and you have to keep the clientele rolling in, and you can't get complacent. It's like you got to keep the ball off the ground. You got to keep that, and that's a business in itself of like so
or
daunting.
Colonel Bruce it and completely deconstruct it.
Right.
He would just throw a grenade on it. It would keep happening. He would get big and then he'd throw a grenade on it to stop it. He was like, no, I don't want it. You know,
that's interesting. Yeah. Huh.
Be careful what you ask for sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So what are you into right now? What's your current thing that you're getting out there on the road with?
You know what I'm doing this week? I'm going down to Arkansas, speaking to my dad, to play a set of music on the front porch of the home he was born in, which is like this tiny sharecropper's cabin, which they brought down. Yeah, they restored the house. This woman named Ann Ballard, who took her team of students who were studying, you know, historical restoration and all this stuff. They restored the home. And they moved it to the center of Marvel, Arkansas, where he was from. And I'm going down and playing some music on the front porch there with some friends. And then there will be a little stage in the ball field next door. And my son, Lee, is coming down with a group of his friends. They have a Grateful Dead tribute band called Young and Grateful. They're doing a set of music.
Nice.
And
I love it.
Yeah, we're doing it's the Levon Helm Jubilee. So I will be there this week, and then I'm kind of done. I'm not really working the next couple months. I'm writing and recording, and I'm going to put a little youth choir together and do some Christmas songs, and just kind of focusing on other stuff right now. Not touring around till the spring, I think.
Me too. I'm taking the rest of the year off of touring, all recording. So you're writing some new stuff, huh?
I'm writing. I'm trying to write a lot. Yes, I'm supposed to record a record. I think we're going to do the first chunk of it when I get back from Arkansas, and then hopefully finish it off in the spring, maybe, or maybe late winter.
It's excruciating for you as it is for me writing music. I mean, it's fun, but it's also brutal to me.
Yes, and and I could talk about this for an hour and a half because it's such a mystery. The songwriting process is so incredible to me, and I've been thinking about it so much and reading about it, trying to educate myself and get better at it. And I actually went back to Full Moon and was a guest teacher at Steve Earle's camp.
Yes, I want to do that.
And it was interesting. I had to flip my mind into like teaching, which I put in quotes because I don't feel that I've arrived at a place where I could teach songwriting. So I just kind of met the group where we all were, which is just that I'm in the process too of trying to learn it. And ever since I did that, it's really more is kind of revealing itself. And, the veil kind of pulls away in different layers, and songs have their own funny, their own little lives, their own little energies that reveal themselves to you. It's quite astonishing, really. I'm finding
they're like children.
I'd like to ask both of you, why is it so I wonder about this with songwriters, because it's like, they are like little children, so you kind of have to let them grow on their own. You can't suffocate them, right? But also,
well, you can, but then they're dead.
You can, but what's so daunting about, like, I guess my like, does it get after doing that event at Steve Earle, like, do you look at it from a more relaxed kind of, this is my third kid, so I'm not going to mess up as much as I did the first time kind of thing? Or is it just a new way that you approach the growth of a song or the patience of it?
After I taught at that camp and then had a chance to go to I didn't get to see Anders' classes because our classes were at the same time, but having conversations with Anders and watching the homework assignments that he gave to the students, getting to watch a couple of Steve's things. And then the week culminated with us doing a concert where I had to play 3 songs that I had written. And something about being the teacher and the student and the performer and all of it at the same time, I felt a lot more self-trust, I think, after I left that, which was interesting. And then once I kind of trusted, once you trust that, okay, this process happens for everybody and it happens for me too. And I don't have to be, Dolly Parton in my writing. She's, I think, one of the most underrated, unsung, prolific songwriters for volumes of incredible songs. So I don't have to write something like Dolly or, John Hyatt or whoever it is that I'm inspired by, but I can allow my process to unfold and let it be what it's going to be without pressure. And somehow I got there, and I've been finding the songs are coming a little easier since then.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like you get out of your own way, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
It is. Right. I find so much in our society, like with conversations that I have with people, regardless of what it's about, a lot of it comes back to giving ourselves permission to be ourselves, which means to fail and succeed, to whatever, for it to be what it is. And it's so weird that we have to go through this long roundabout thing to get back to, like, it's okay to be you right now.
Right.
Like it's sad that, maybe it's good. Maybe that's another gift that we got to go around the mountain just to prove it to ourselves, I guess. Right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Why we have to go around the mountain, but.
Right. I know it's different. I guess maybe, I think about this a lot too. And I think it's sort of like the levels, the ocean floor, if you're practicing radical self-love, if that's your goal, or if that's the teacher. Most religions teach that anyway. So whatever it is we follow, even if it's just loving nature, that's kind of the constant return. But it seems like that ocean floor doesn't exist. There's no floor to it. Maybe it's just concentric kind of circles of deeper levels of that. Which is why that's what I say to myself when I try to think, like, why have I wasted the last 20 years of my life feeling like shit? Like, now I'm 51 and everyone's telling me I'm old, but I feel incredible.
That's exact same. I felt so crappy. I was terrified, confused, just like, when I was young, I wouldn't want to go back to that for anything in the world. I don't even care about not having the energy. Yeah. Because I feel like my life started at 50. it got progressively better, like 40, 50. Like, I'm like,
oh my God, I feel exactly the same way. Someone said, how did it? I said, I can't wait to turn 60.
Me too.
This is how 51 feels like. And it's so funny because we live, especially for women, it's like there's $1 billion industry created against this. And I
right.
Young girls, and I say to them, guys, I feel fucking great. And they're bewildered that they said, gosh, at first, they don't hear that a lot from older women. It's funny. Like, not that older women don't feel that way, but I don't think it's part of the conversational push in our culture,
Yeah. Well, in America, definitely it's not.
America.
Oh, of course not. No.
I do see it changing. Like, I am getting more and more off of social media, but in my Instagram, I notice these things have come up with like older women embracing. There's this one black lady, and she doesn't have like super duper smooth skin and look way younger than her age. Well, she might. I don't know. Maybe she's a lot older than but she's totally gray, and she tends to come on with no makeup, and she's like happy. She's like, this is what, whatever. I don't even know what the age is, but this is what this looks like. Right. And I'm digging it, and I'm digging my gray hair. Right. She does it different way, and she's beautiful. But it's all in this. Like I always thought, like, look at like Emmylou Harris.
Oh my God!
The way she aged, I was like, she just is perpetually beautiful. It does not matter. She'll be 102 and still have whatever that thing is, because she's embracing it. There's a way to age.
Yeah,
and the women that do it right, it's so powerful. It's like, whoa,
right?
So great.
Yeah, Emmylou is she's also one of the coolest people in the world, right?
I think it tend to go together, like Dolly.
Yeah.
Right? It tends to go together.
Right.
Yeah.
And they also remain very sexy.
Uh-huh.
Because they feel it's it's like
sexy.
And they feel beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like there's a way to do it. And I always am like, I want to encourage my daughter's 4, but I do want to like put that in her head, like it's in here, and then that does affect how you look on the outside. It just does. I don't know why, but it does.
Right.
I mean, look at you.
With your Woodstock, that's a Woodstock 51 right there. It's beautiful.
Woodstock 51, I like it.
I think that, like, if there are people who are half of all of our ages that probably feel 10 times older.
Yeah.
Because of that foundation or lack thereof. You know what I mean? Like, if you got that rocky, if you have that inner, like you said, that radical self-love, skin doesn't stop that from shining out to the world,
Right.
But if you have the opposite, I think that also kind of emanates, right? Like, I think so. If you have that good foundation,
booze soaked, and like people are like, "Oh, Teal, you're like reverse aging." I was like, I treat myself way better now than I did in my 30s and 20s.
Right.
It's very true, right? I mean, you think about that, and it's like wow.
180 degrees.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I think about even like eating, like just the way that, the gross stuff.
The gas station food we used to eat.
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding?
Hot Pockets.
Oh.
Lunchables. We did Lunchables.
Regularly.
You did Lunchables?
Yeah.
Tough. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just the idea of making my own sandwiches out of the bologna and cheese and crackers that they provided.
Yeah.
Somehow that felt better to me. I don't know. I was still making my own lunch.
I'm like, bologna, like, what is that? Like, ham, I know what it is. It's a pig's ass. Bologna, I'm not.
Bologna came out of a pig's ass. Yeah.
I liked bologna when I was young too. I don't think I could do it now knowing that it's a mystery of nature. But yeah.
What was that, the island of Dr. Moreau? Is that that's what that shit is?
Oh God.
That's so neat that you're going to be playing on the right at the house. That's so cool.
So cool. I did it last year too. And it's really cool. Like, speaking about women and life and just how we grow older and what we come to hold close to our hearts, like my grandmother, like I go into that house and I'm like, God damn, like she was here, like with no electricity, with no running water, like cooking, having babies, losing babies. Like, they had no medicine. Like, everybody lost kids back then. It was like, it was a brutal time to be down there, because Arkansas in 1940 might as well have been the 1800s. Like, it was really like,
Yeah.
So it's really cool to touch down on that history and be like, damn, if she could do it, then we can do a lot,
Yeah. It
Those
makes you realize
made it through,
there's a lot of heroes.
A lot of heroes.
I think about, my grandfather's, my mom's dad had a 4th grade education. He always had 3 jobs and he was happy.
Yes.
At his age, they had to leave North Carolina. A lot of my family had to leave because of such horrible racist stuff. They had to leave because they were doing well. Florida, North Carolina, they own their own land. And like, there's a statue of my great grandfather, whatever, in Key West in that park. But they had to leave because it was so horrible.
Wow.
And you think like, wow, what am I whining about now? Like,
a flight gets delayed and we're like
it's so,
I know.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, not that we don't have, I know a friend that he lost a child, but like you say, like everybody had so many kids back then, because probably there might be 2 or 3 of them that didn't make it.
Yeah. My grandmother lost 2.
Yeah. I mean, that was just,
it's what happened.
Expected. Yeah. Your expectations included that.
Yeah.
God forbid, but still, like, it was on way more on the table than what we think about right now.
Yeah. Right.
And we try to use that now. Like, it's still, death can come for you. So it's like, me and Mike have this thing about 6 months where we say, okay, when you're struggling, like if you had 6 months to live, what would you change and what would you keep the same?
Wow.
You can't do like 2 weeks or a month. But then if you do 5 years, like we were tinkering with the time a lot. So you could tinker with the time. What if you had 2 years to live? But you know what I mean? Yeah. And just with knowing, with your expectation, be like, okay, I might die, which is actually true.
Right.
Tomorrow, like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And it has really changed a lot in my life. It helps me say no to a lot of stuff that I would just say yes to and then have a bad attitude about doing. It's like,
it also takes the brevity out of a lot of the worry.
Yes.
That at the moment seems like catastrophic, and you go, if I had 6 months, this doesn't matter anymore.
Right. Things would just fall away.
It's like a scale.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it's like, yep, that doesn't really matter
at all.
Put it on the 6 month scale. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful way. That's how we have to live. I've been, a friend reminded me of a beautiful kind of one sentence prayer that I love, that I've been using a lot, which is, what does love require of me today? Like just that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that. Isn't that a good one?
That is a good one.
Yeah, I like it.
You could use it for every single situation. You know what I've been finding a lot? Like when I don't want to do something, and people ask me to do a lot more stuff now since Dead Company.
Right.
It's just a reality,
Yeah.
And it always comes back to the same thing. I just beat my head against the wall. How do I say no? And it's always just like, just be honest.
Yeah. Right.
Just say why it is that it's like you would like to do it, but I don't want to do it for this reason right now. It doesn't shut the door forever. It's just like bad time. And then I was just like, okay, so I could shorten this whole process all the time.
Right.
Yeah,
Think
Amy,
for a minute what it is and then just let it go, let it fly.
Yeah.
Amy, I like that because the key word's today.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know.
It's not yesterday. It's not tomorrow. It's not the rest of my life.
Yeah. It's just
right now.
Coming back to it.
Yeah.
Am I
That's
reacting
awesome.
to this? And a lot of times I'll say it to myself and just realize like I'll think that I'm using it to remind myself of how to react to something outside of me. But oftentimes, and this seems to be the theme we've all stumbled upon on this conversation today, but just about being kind to ourselves and kind of standing with yourself no matter what's going on and believing in your own process, you know?
Yeah.
You're believing in your, God within you, whatever that is, or however you define it, your divinity having its kind of eternal and always present light in you.
It's funny how we're so kind to everybody else, but not ourselves.
Yeah.
Some people naturally can stick up for themselves. Like my daughter, Kavi, she has no problem. She's being kind to herself or sticking up.
Advocating for herself.
Like it's just in there.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to work for it at all. I have to go through this whole decades long process of justification and I'm a person too. Shouldn't I be able to be happy?
You can make 100 people happy, but it's like the minute you're done, it's like, well, I could have made 101 people happy, but somehow I screwed that up. It's just, or I made 1,000 people unhappy. Yeah, it's that thing, that constant,
Constant criticism. Yeah, right.
It's the curse of humanity.
Ourselves. You got to say, okay, sometimes I got to make me happy right now.
Yeah.
And then I'll be back. My gas tank will be full again to help make everybody else happy.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And hopefully, go ahead, Amy.
Oh, and especially playing music and doing gigs. And like we were talking about earlier, when it becomes your work and it becomes your job, it just, it's to manage that it's easy to kind of get into the chaos of it than just the original thing. Because I think about this sometimes, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, which I have no reason to, I have a team. I have people, I have a booking agent. I was talking to a friend of mine. They were like, I don't have a booking agent. I was like, oh God, right. That's a whole other level of work.
Yeah.
So even though I have people that are helping me do stuff, it's like, we all get overwhelmed with the conversations and things that people want to hear, and they want to know what's going on, and they want to, especially with the barn, because I'm running that as a business now, even more so too. So I'll get caught up, and man, if I take 5 minutes and I sit down on that couch with that tenor guitar behind me, and I just touch down on something I'm trying to write or something I'm trying to get, a cover I'm trying to learn on tenor for 5 minutes, it restores my whole thing.
It's like magic.
I'm sure you guys feel the same.
You have to. You got to recalibrate. You got to reset. Press that. Find your button.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. You have it.
Piano, just sitting there, because Kofi always wanted me to play piano, and I've just resisted it. Now I'm just trying really simple songs and then got sucked in. It's the most therapeutic thing. Beautiful. It's like the tenor guitar. You just playing and singing. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I am seriously all better right now.
Right.
It's
super cool. Yeah. Where can everyone who's listening find and follow what you're up to and support and everything?
That's a good question. So bad. I'm terrible. I'm pretty sure it's Amy Helm Music. I think that's my Instagram.
Okay.
And that's, and my website, amyhelm.com, I guess, right? Yeah, that's where you can see.
The barn
She's
keeps
got
you
people
busy.
for that.
The barn keeps you busy, I bet, huh?
I've got people for. I do have people for that Instagram thing, boy. I have my manager is 30 years old, and I'm like, please take this from me. You know?
I don't want to do.
I don't want to do it. Yeah, the barn is doing great. We're doing lots of shows there, and that's like it's taken a while, but we have a great team, and we've got it up and running where it's actually like a venue, which so a lot of different musicians come and play there, and incredible shows happening all through the fall, and yeah.
It's messed up. I have never even been to the barn.
Really?
Much less played it. Isn't that messed up? That's my fault.
Wow.
And so I'm breaking a rule here. It's a cardinal rule. You should never go to ask someone to sit in on their gig. I never, but I am asking at some point. I really want to play the barn because, I had a great moment with Levon. He played the Allman Brothers 40th anniversary. And it was not long, I think, after he had gotten his voice back. Like he started playing, but I think he couldn't sing for a while, right?
Yes, yeah.
And then we heard like he's singing again, and we were like, "Oh shit!" Yeah. And then he came and sat in the very first night, I believe, of the Allman Brothers 40th anniversary. The two guests were Taj Mahal and Levon.
Wow.
And he sets up, he doesn't set up back where the drummers, he sets up on the side of the stage facing.
Yes.
So he was right next to me.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So I got to really like feel like when you see someone, you're playing like the way he leads you. And it was just so heavy. I was like, we could all go home after him and Taj. Me and Derek and Warren were like, we're done here, right? Like this is, we had all these people lined up, Clapton and everybody. I was like, I think I'm good, y'all. It was so beautiful. And then I had one more moment with him in New Orleans Jazz Fest.
You had that moment, by the way. That's so great.
Oh, the other one in New Orleans is even better. And we weren't even together, but we had these trailers. And I looked out at the back of my trailer. There's a fence that blocked everything. So people couldn't see that those were our dressing rooms.
Yeah.
And he came outside and he took his shirt off and he just stood like this in the sun.
Yeah, he loves to do that. Yeah,
man, I don't know why, but that got me so. I mean, I knew what he had been through with the cancer and the comeback and all the stuff, but seeing him just be grateful for that moment, it's burned and it sticks out in my mind for some reason. So I'm glad to I had a chance to tell you that. I don't know. I've just all the time I've spent with you at Roots, I forgot to even mention that to you.
That's beautiful, Oteil, that you got, because that posture, that thing of him with his step to the sun, I know exactly. Just and he would rock.
Yes.
I know. And he really healed himself with that. When he first got throat cancer and came through it, he would just stand outside and do that for hours. And then at night, he'd stay out in the woods. I mean, he slept out there a lot too. Wow. He just had this fire that he'd keep going constantly.
Wow.
Fire out by the pond in his house. And I think he really he just tuned into something and, he knew kind of how to heal himself in a way during that time. So I think you caught energetically that.
Yeah.
You saw him do that too.
It's that old Arkansas cabin stuff,
it's that
man.
Old yeah, it really
tapped
is.
into it. I just came from Arkansas. We played Hillberry Festival.
Yeah.
And I was so blown away at all the Deadheads and this whole community. It was just like the Shire in the middle of Arkansas. And it was really cool. And so it's when you mentioned the cabin in Arkansas, I could totally go back to that because we were just in the mountains up there. Yeah. Ozarks, right?
Well, that's Ozarks. This is Marble, where my dad is from. is like an hour and 20 minutes outside of Memphis, and it's down in the Delta.
So it's like that
swampy and just cotton fields as far as you can see. And, you know, I'm hoping the Deadheads show up. It's pretty much like, imagine a small ball field with about 150 to 175 people scattered in the ball field, sitting in chairs, and all of them are over like 82 years old. It's like elderly.
Feel the dreams.
And Mike, it really is a field of dreams. So we're going to try to, we're going to see. I love this thing because it's very, it's really kind of an undiscovered thing yet. It's like outlier art. So this little festival is, if anybody hears this in time, if you want to come see some real, untapped stuff, come down to Marble.
I think it's great. Go down there and learn how to heal yourself.
Right.
That's how those folks did it, because they didn't have all these doctors and fancy hospitals and machines and stuff. They went out there and they reconnected with nature and got that energy and healed. Our bodies can do it, but our minds, we got to get our minds in tune. We got to tune up, like Sun Ra said. Be in tune with nature, with the universe.
Absolutely.
Back on track.
Before I forget, to go back to something you're talking about, not having played at the barn. Anytime you want to come, play anything there, bring your own band, play something by yourself, bring whatever, come play with the Ramble Band, any version of any of it. It's he really wanted that place to be a home base for musicians. That's what he built it for. It's like it's a very special room.
I know, man. Everybody that plays, all my people.
I know.
They play there and they're like, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I doing? I had my first kid at 50. So it's the kid. And I'm always like back to the kids. But I absolutely, I'm going to take you up on it, and I'll just keep track of what's going on when I'm close.
Yeah. Well,
or maybe we could book something.
Yeah, well, when you get there, it'll be the right time, for you.
Yeah,
you can do something after Roots if it's easy.
Yeah,
and the family can just come with or whatever. You'll know when it's right. It's always
absolutely.
There.
But thank you
so much for joining us.
Thanks, you guys. I had a great time getting to talk to you, and look forward to seeing you guys in person sometime down the road.
Yes, soon. Well, bless you, Mama. You have a great day.